Hello everyone and welcome back to the Game Movie Jerks. Today we're going to take a look at the Grimm Troupe and what they're all about. Now this group is pretty mysterious and not a lot is said about them. Despite that, I'll try to get everything we know about them across in this video. Of course, there are Hollow Knight spoilers ahead. The Grimm Troupe is basically a traveling circus with some weird stuff going on in the background. It is seemingly led by the troupe master Grimm. But you eventually find out there is someone much more powerful behind it all. The troupe master, however, is the one who leads the entire ritual that they attempt to accomplish. The troupe uses acolytes to seek out kingdoms that have fallen, and these fallen kingdoms are so-called nightmares that take the shape of an essence-type substance. Despite the ritual being led by Grimm himself, it is beneficial only to the being on top of the troupe, which would be the Nightmare Heart. The Nightmare Heart is a higher being, but he doesn't look much like the higher beings in the game. The Radiance is a moth, the White Lady is a tree, the Pale King was a worm, Un was a frickin' slug, and the Nightmare Heart is a hot air balloon, maybe? Not sure on that one. However, I would say that the Nightmare Heart is most similar to the Radiance in that they are both part of the Dream World. What is different is that the Nightmare Heart is a part of the separate realm of the Dream World called the Nightmare Realm. We already know that the Dream World is pretty confusing, but this might show us that it is split up into different realms, which does make sense. For example, the dream with the Dreamers in it looks totally different from the dream with the Pale King's Palace. Bretta's dream looks totally different from the Radiance fight too. So I do think it is probably split up realm by realm, the Nightmare Realm possibly being like Hades in the Underworld. The ritual is probably just as confusing as the Nightmare Realm itself, as it consists of probably around 5 steps. The first step has already been mentioned, which would be for an acolyte to find a fallen kingdom. With this, I assume that bugs just wander around until they find a kingdom suitable for the ritual. It makes sense that they found Hollow Nest, as others, specifically Quirrell and the Godseekers, mentioned that a wind guides them to Hollow Nest. The next step would be spreading out the Grimmkin. The Grimmkin are pretty mysterious, but seem to contain essence from the Nightmare Realm, or Nightmare Essence. With this essence, they can cast powerful spells, like shooting red balls of fire. The third step is probably the weirdest and most confusing. That would be for a Grimm child, which would be the creature that follows you when you have Grimm's charm equipped, to consume the Grimmkin and their essence. I assume that Grimm himself creates the Grimm child, but I guess I'm not sure on that. This essence also clearly makes the Grimm child grow stronger, as he starts to fire stronger projectiles as you continue to gather Nightmare Essence. Grimm also mentions that he could grow from the heat of dance, which would refer to the first battle you had against him. The fourth step would be for the Grimm child to take all of his harvested essence back to Grimm, and for Grimm to give said essence to the Nightmare Heart. I am unaware of why the Nightmare Heart needs essence, but I assume it needs it just to stay alive. This step confuses me a bit, because you would think that the Grimm child giving up all that essence would make him weak again, but it does not appear to. After this, the ritual is nearly complete. The final step is to defeat Grimm, allowing for the Grimm child to consume his essence and eventually become the new Grimm, only to eventually start the ritual over yet again. After Grimm is defeated, he goes inside of the Nightmare Heart, which then bursts out an immense amount of what I assume to be Nightmare Essence. Afterwards, the Grimm Troupe vanish, leaving behind the Grimm child, I guess for you to take care of. However, you can also choose to banish the troupe from Hollow Nest and never finish the ritual. This option would be through Brum, an NPC that is part of the troupe. Brum is a part of the troupe, but does not act like any other Grimmkin, as his wishes are against the troupe itself. You have obviously noticed that everyone in the troupe wears the same mask, as well as having also learned that masks can carry strong power with them. We mostly learn this from the mask maker in Deep Nest. The masks can conceal identities and sometimes shape the minds and wills of bugs who wear them. What is most likely happening in the troupe is that the masks basically mind control them into completing the ritual and following the troupe. This theory does make a lot of sense. How else would they be getting these servants? There seems to be no benefit to the servants who participate in the ritual. However, it does seem as though you can break through the will of the mask and still have a piece of your own mind left. I say this because of what Brum was able to do, going against the mask's wishes and banishing the troupe. The masks seem to have some other effects as well. When Brum loses his mask, he changes to Nim. He is clearly smaller and has no memory of being part of the troupe. which I guess means that the mask gets to store its own memories as well. For anyone wondering who made the masks, I have always assumed it was either the Nightmare Heart itself or possibly the first ever Grimm. The masks also seem to be a connection from the dream world and the real world. Grimm can clearly have the ability to transport themselves through the dream world and the real world, and the only explanation behind it is the mask itself. A hidden room inside Grimm's tent shows us a huge pile of masks, which means that they are definitely real physical objects. It is possible that all of the Grimm can only exist in the Nightmare Realm, but they could be projected to the real realm through their masks. This would explain where all the audience goes between battles against Grimm. It could also explain a bit about the other thing in this room, a weird, thing. It is unknown what this actually is, but most predict that it's a map. It's a pretty weird map. It does not relate to any of Cornifer's maps or the Vitruvian Grub, which I have speculated to be a map. However, it does make a bit more sense if you consider it to possibly be a map of the Nightmare Realm, which I would assume to be a pretty weird place, and thus needs a pretty weird map. I speculate that it specifically pinpoints Kingdom's locations that they've been to, specifically their location in the Nightmare Realm, or at least the location of where to exit the Nightmare Realm in order to appear in a fallen kingdom. To simplify it, think about like Minecraft for a second, right? When you build nether portals throughout the overworld, they appear in a corresponding location in the nether as well. That's basically how I imagine it. The only other big mystery is Divine, the weird, thing that has her own tent outside of Grimm's. Aside from her looking like the Slurm Queen from that one episode of Futurama, she does have a resemblance to the Leg Eater NPC that you can buy 3 fragile charms from. Divine mentions that she smells something weird in this kingdom that would probably be Leg Eater. She has seemingly no connection to the troupe. In fact, if you complete the ritual without finishing her quest, her tent stays there until you do so. It is great for gameplay, but it doesn't make a lot of sense in the aspect of lore. I mean, why would they just leave her behind? It should be mentioned that if you banish the troupe, she disappears with them, whether you finish her quest or not. Which makes possibly less sense when you're looking at both outcomes together. I mean, either way, they can teleport their entire circus in and out of the Nightmare Realm at will, so why not take Divine with them? Either way, she doesn't seem that connected to the lore very much, that's all I'm saying. There are a couple NPCs that clearly know about the troupe's existence. Seer talks about it once or twice, but not often. Professor Gigi talks about it in a bit more detail, and even the White Lady mentions them once. Seer knowing them makes sense, as he's connected to the dream world through his tribe. Professor Gigi's very mysterious, so we don't exactly know why he knows anything about them. The White Lady knowing makes a bit of sense. She is a higher being, and is likely to know other higher beings, like the Nightmare Heart. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time on the Game Movie Jerks.